Welcome back to another Kerbal Space Program video, sponsored by Incogni, the best way to keep your personal data safe online. More on them a little bit later. And as you probably ascertained from this video's title and thumbnail, today I'll be building, well, you can see I've very much already started building, a small science helicopter using 100% stock parts, with both DLCs installed of course. The Breaking Ground DLC is very much integral to building any kind of propeller-driven craft really, but there's a bit of a backstory to this video. I was actually planning to make a video of a submarine craft this week, not a helicopter, as a follow-up to my 10-year anniversary Eve submarine video that I made a few weeks ago, because in that video, the submarine couldn't actually fully submerge, since it was a replica of a craft that I made over 10 years ago now, before I had a YouTube channel, and so I didn't know at the time how many views the craft would end up being subjected to. So I was going to modify the craft to give it the ability to actually dive beneath the waves, but sadly my dreams were crushed. I couldn't for the life of me get the craft to sink properly. It needed an ungodly amount of part clipping to lower the buoyancy enough, which caused it to be massively unstable and prone to being torn apart by the Kraken. One attempt literally ripped the craft apart and resulted in it being thrown out of the Kerbin system faster than the speed of light. So that's currently on the ideas in progress shelf right now, and given that I wasted so much time on that this week, I realised I didn't have a whole lot of time left to plan out and execute a different mission for today. But then I remembered a cool little Reddit post, which I've linked in the description, posted by user electric_pickle, who shared a picture of a mini science and exploration helicopter they made. And it's so cool! There's a picture on screen. I love miniature builds in KSP, and this one was so great that I forgot about it for 9 months. But now that I've remembered it, I wanted to create my own version of it, with space for 2 Kerbals and all of the science parts, minus the Science Junior though, that was too large to fit onto the helicopter's airframe. Now, just going to address the elephant that may or may not have entered the room here. Some of you may be watching in horror due to the fact that this part of the build I'm no longer using stock parts, thus shamelessly clickbaiting you all here. But I only said stock parts for the helicopter. Anything goes for the rest of the build. Seeing as the helicopter itself is quite small, it wouldn't really be appropriate to send Kerbals to Eve or Laythe, the only 2 planets where this helicopter can fly, excluding Jool from things of course, and so I thought I'd construct a small surface base to come along for the journey, and build a proper little mini colony. And the base is mostly constructed using parts from Benji 10's Planetside Exploration Technologies mod that adds some amazing surface base parts, including things like wind turbines, which I've not used before, so I really wanted to give them a go. I'll link this parts mod in the description as well if you want to check it out. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video to help me out and all that jazz, and comment something too. Maybe, I don't know, what are your thoughts on the Principality of Sealand? It's a micronation, which it's really funny. It's just an offshore platform in the North Sea. It's not officially recognized by any sovereign state, but its government claims it has been de facto recognized by the UK and Germany, because there was a UK court ruling on it, and Germany dispatched a diplomat to Sealand. Honestly, it's a really funny Wikipedia article. It's literally just an offshore platform in the North Sea with 1 permanent resident, according to Wikipedia. I just fact-checked this. But it has its own American football club. It's got an association football team with men's, women's and masters teams with over 200 players and staff. Its national flag was carried to the summit of Everest. It's been represented in international kung fu competitions. Honestly, it's kind of a funny rabbit hole to dive into. I guess that's yet one more thing I'll have to remember to link below. Anyway, we got a bit sidetracked there, didn't I? I didn't really talk about the entire build of the rocket. There's not much to talk about, just a big booster. Before I launched, I panicked and was like, oh my god, what if I've not got enough Delta V in our interplanetary transfer stage? So I added more liquid fuel tanks, and we now have way too much Delta V for the mission, so apologies guys. But whatever. Here we are, time warping to a Jool transfer window, because yes, between Eve and Laythe, I decided to go to Laythe, which is obviously a moon of Jool. So that's where we're going to be going. I've got a few anonymous Kerbals being led by Bill Kerman. He's kind of the main OG Kerbal on this mission, just to help guide them along. Right before launching though, Bill Kerman had to bail out of the rocket and leave completely unexpectedly. The reason for this was that he received a notification that someone had impersonated him on LinkedIn with a frightening amount of accurate personal details. Clearly some ne'er-do-wells have created a shadow profile of him for nefarious purposes. If only he'd used Incogni, a powerful tool that helps you reclaim control over your personal data online and keep it safe from data brokers and trackers, and they've sponsored today's video. Incogni is something that I genuinely use because their service is incredibly valuable. Your personal details are out there being sold and distributed by data brokers to all kinds of sites, and it's only a matter of time before one of these sites suffers a data breach, putting your information at risk. Incogni protects your data by contacting data broker companies to remove your name from their databases, ensuring that your personal information remains private and secure. But why should you care? Well, like poor old Bill Kerman, your data can be collected, bought and sold, which in turn can lead to things like the denial of bank loans and credit cards, or result in higher insurance rates, leaving you vulnerable to all kinds of manipulation and social engineering. And it can even result in you having your identity stolen. According to the annual data breach report by the Identity Theft Resource Center, it went up by 72% in 2023 compared to the previous year. And hey, if your data is on a site that isn't part of Incogni's standard list, then they've got you covered there too. You can use the Custom Removals tab, so that you can point Incogni towards those extra places where you know your data might still be lurking. Protect your privacy today. Click the link in the description and use my code MATTLOWNE for 60% off an annual plan. Take control of your data before someone else does. Massive thank you to Incogni for sponsoring today's video. And we are off, and doesn't the game just look so beautiful? I think I actually paused and took a little screenshot of just that lovely, is it sunrise or sunset? I can't tell now. Just the golden glow either way of the dusk/dawn. Schrodinger's sunrise. Just because, yeah, that beautiful colour with the mods. And we're punching through the cloud layer, which of course is thanks to BlackRock's volumetric clouds. We've got deferred rendering reinstalled. I had to uninstall it last week. Well, I didn't uninstall deferred rendering, but I had to uninstall Shabby, which is like a shaders mod that kind of deferred rendering requires, because last week I went to an outer planet, Plock, part of the Outer Planets mod. In fact, it is the outermost planet in the Outer Planets mod, and yeah, for whatever reason, Shabby was breaking the Outer Planets install for some reason, so I had to uninstall that. But now I've reinstalled it. I still have Outer Planets installed on my save file, though don't worry, well, not my save file, but like my entire KSP install. Ooh, we're just seen we're about to approach a staging event. Let's all watch this together. Lovely stuff. Oh, what was I even talking about? Oh, yeah, so I've still got the Outer Planets mod installed. I'm not done with Outer Planets, guys. It's not just going to be a one video and then that's done. A lot of you guys, I've done this again. I did this last week where I forgot the name of the moon. It's a moon of Sarnus. It's called Tektro or Tekto or something along those lines. If you Google, like, Outer Planets TEK, and then it should probably auto-correct to whatever the moon's name is. People really want me to go there. I think it's meant to be like an in-game equivalent of Titan, which is a moon of Saturn. That's really, really cool. Has like methane lakes and... yeah, we've landed a probe there, which is absolutely insane to me. Like, put a picture on screen. Oh, that's the surface of Titan. That's crazy. I mean, like, it looks in a weird way just like Earth, but more yellow? I don't know. This picture is crazy to me. Anyway, yes, that Titan has an analog in the Outer Planets mod. The gimmick is that it's green, not orange. I think it's meant to be an analog of Titan. Anyway, Titan is the largest moon of Saturn, and I'm guessing this one is the largest moon of Sarnus, which is the Saturn equivalent in Outer Planets. I'm assuming it's the largest moon of Sarnus because that would make sense, right? A lot of people think Titan is the biggest moon in our solar system, though, and it actually isn't. It's Ganymede. Which is a moon of Jupiter, and that has an analog in stock KSP. That's your Tylo. So Tylo is obviously the biggest moon of the Jool system. That's meant to be the in-game equivalent of Ganymede. Kind of a shame that the devs went with Ganymede and not Titan as a moon of Jool, because atmospheric. There's not enough place with atmosphere in this game. Like, there's only Eve and Judah and Laythe, and I guess Jool, but Jool's a gas giant. It'd be cool to have more. I kind of said this a lot. Like, it wouldn't be nice if the stock system was just to have more places to go. I guess because it's my job to make videos playing in a largely stock install, and I'm over 10 years into this at this point. It's like trying to think of ways to reuse the same locations. But that's a really good reason why I've got things like Outer Planets installed. And I would like to try out other planet packs. Like, I've used planet packs for series I've done in the past, namely in Into the Warp and Green Harvest. I used planet packs, and when I was playing them, I was like, oh yeah, this is really cool. Those were obviously for cinematic purposes though, so sorry to burst the bubble, guys, but a lot of the shots that were done in Into the Warp and Green Harvest were done with cheats, because like, I was just interested in getting the transition shots, and like, yeah, the crafts had the Delta V, I guess, to do the things they did on screen, but I never actually did it for real. So it'd be nice to actually maybe visit these places, in air quotes, in real life to see what the planet packs are actually like. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a nice idea for a planet pack showcase. Oh, got a little jump scare of the Mun just there flying in front of the screen as we time up around to our second burn. I do this quite a lot, so I didn't really feel like mentioning it specifically at the time, but yes, I've split my burn to the Jool system in two, just because the nuclear engines are really weedy, and so it's a really long burn, and so with a long burn, I like to try and maximize the overbirth effect by, spending as much time as close to Kerbin periapsis as possible, basically make it more efficient, and so to get maximum efficiency, doing multiple escape burns, where you're kind of burning like a little amount at Kerbin periapsis, then time warping around and doing it again and again. Bit more efficient. I only did the 2 burns because I mentioned in the build I brought way too much fuel. Like, literally, I built the craft and I feel like it had more than enough Delta V as it was anyway. And then right before launch, I was like, because of this whole my submarine video didn't work, and I've got basically no time at all to film this. I really, really need this to just work first time, so I just, in a panic, added like way more liquid fuel to the nuclear stage, and now we have an absolutely absurd amount of Delta V. But that means that our journey to Laythe is nice and easy. Normally when I do missions to Laythe, well, I guess any moon of the Jool system, I use a Tylo gravity assist. So a lot of people know gravity assist as a way of, boosting your velocity, like energy, but you can use it in the opposite way as well, so by slowing down. So you can actually use Tylo's massive gravity. I've already mentioned Tylo is the in-game analog of the real solar system's biggest moon, so Tylo, big thing. It has so much gravity, it can actually swing you, if you time it right, it can swing you into a stable Jool orbit without any retrograde burn in Jool orbit necessary. So you can save a bunch of Delta V, as you can imagine, but I mean, we've not even used half of our fuel levels at this point, and we already have our Jool encounter set up. In fact, I think we've got the Laythe encounter, or about to get the Laythe encounter, just looking at the screen. So just before the maneuver node is done, I'll just cancel out and just watch it by eye. And there we are, we have a perfect Laythe encounter. Well, actually our periapsis is slightly within its atmosphere, which I guess is fine because we could use aerobraking to slow down and save fuel. But as I mentioned, we have an absurd amount of fuel. So apologies, you guys that like the hyper-efficient missions. This is not one of those. This is just, I panicked and brought too much fuel because I just wanted the mission to work. Because like with most of my KSP missions, admittedly, what you're watching here is take 1. I didn't do a test run. Well, I do test runs to make sure like the actual ascent vehicle can get the thing into orbit and everything is kind of like reasonable in terms of how much fuel it has left. So I did that, but then I was like, right, it gets to orbit and the maths all checks out, so let's just go ahead and film this. So yeah, that's my story. So I've done a small prograde burn to raise our Laythe periapsis because, as I mentioned, we don't need to do an air brake. We've got way more fuel than we need, so we can just do an engine capture. I feel like this is a bit more realistic as well, at least for this kind of craft. Real life, we have used aero brakes, especially for Mars missions. In fact, I think that's exclusively for Mars missions, except for things like Venus captures. So it's not out of the realm of realism, but for a crude spacecraft like this, with obviously not very heat-resilient colony parts on it, I felt like an engine burn would be make more sense. And so I've done one, I'll say small, a big enough burn that we've captured, but we're in this elliptical orbit, just in case I want to change our inclination to aim for any specific land masses on Laythe. But at the end I thought, no, we'll just go for an equatorial one. So I mentioned earlier about the overbirth effect, where it's more efficient to do prograde burns as close to periapsis as possible. For changing inclination, it's way more efficient to do it from as high up as possible. That's why I like to have a nice high apoapsis for initial capture, just in case we need to do any inclination changes, but in this case we did not. Now one of the challenges of landing on Laythe is the fact that most of it is water, interestingly. Now I had a series, this is an interesting thing. I used to do a series called Life on Laythe, and then I just stopped making it, and then I rebooted it, and then I just stopped making it, and now here we are again at Laythe. Maybe this is like the beginning of Life on Laythe Series 3 that I've just decided to do on a whim right now. So maybe like the lore is that We've just sent a little scout helicopter with a small base of intrepid astronauts just to, you know, figure out the vibe of stuff, and then we can go and set a bigger surface base down later on. I'm not sure, but yeah, like I said, that whole point of that Life on Laythe series that I never actually finished was the fact that Laythe is really weird, right? It has a breathable atmosphere, oxygenated atmosphere with liquid water on its surface, even though we are so far away from the sun that none of this should, like, it's basically functionally the same as Kerbin, which doesn't make a lot of sense because Kerbin is way close to the sun than Laythe. So Laythe should be a horrible nightmare, icy, frozen wasteland like Europa, which I guess is like no, I think Val is Europa's equivalent, isn't it? I guess Laythe doesn't really have a solar system equivalent in real life. I guess Titan, really. I mentioned, I complained earlier about there not being a Titan analog in the game, but I guess Laythe is it, but rather than having methane lakes, it's got liquid water lakes. And I was like, why is this? What was why? Why is Laythe? So that was the whole idea for that series. Oh, look at that beautiful little Jool rise, by the way. So, yeah, that's, but maybe I'll do. I have vowed to do more Laythe videos. I guess now thinking about it, I said at the beginning of this video that I was planning on making like a submarine this week, and I guess that could go to Laythe potentially. So there we are. I've now somehow just set up a big plan for Life on Laythe Series 3. So comment below if you're in support of that. But yeah, here we are. We've entered Laythe's atmosphere. I was aiming for this landmass because previous Life on Laythe episodes, well, the latest series, I believe. I'm not sure if both series are on the same island. I found a little spit of land off the like a small island off the coast of one of the larger islands, which I dubbed Lowne Island. That's where all our stuff was landed, basically. And I thought this was it, but looking at it now, I think this is actually a different island to Lowne Island. So maybe any Matt Lowne historians can go back and figure out if it is or not and let me know, because I'm too lazy to go and figure out for myself. And yeah, so I guess we're not at Lowne Island anymore, we're at some other island, maybe, or maybe it is Lowne Island, and I'm just the worst explorer of all time. But here we are descending. We have now ditched our inflatable heat shields. Very, very jankily. They kind of like wiggled their way out. I think one of them destroyed something on the surface base, but luckily it wasn't anything mission critical because everything that we need is still here. We're ascending a little bit skew whiff, so I'm just cutting some tactical parachute cutting to level ourselves out prior to touching down. Now I really wanted to land somewhere flat because realistically that's where you'd want to land, right? Because that's, you know, the crew are going to be living here for many, many centuries, I imagine, because I'll just forget to revisit this. And so I kind of want them to be on a nice leveled surface base. And as you can see, we haven't really achieved that goal, right? This is quite a slant that we found ourselves on. Now, the landing legs that are part of Benji10's Planetside Exploration Technologies mod, those can actually be adjusted to kind of level out bases when you're not on completely flat ground. But the ground that we're on is a little bit extreme even for those landing legs. So I had to get creative. And then I remembered we have a helicopter on the roof. And I reckoned if we unlock the rotors, you know, set the torque up to 100%, then we should be able to take off. And I should have probably mentioned at this point that there's no tail rotor. Instead, I have two contra-rotating rotors on top. And we're going to spin them up and let's see what happens. So ready? We're spinning them up. We're not moving just yet. Aha! It has worked! We are flying with the helicopter. And this is real. Yeah, look at that. Helicopter. This is a powerful old thing, isn't it? So yeah, I was able to just fly the helicopter base around and found a suitably flat area. And so I think you'll all agree that I didn't cheat. I think we can all agree on that. So now we are on suitably flatter ground. We can try and use the landing legs here to level out the little base a little bit. I've never done this before, I don't think. Like, I have used this mod before. I made a Mun base, but that was a long time ago, and I've just forgotten everything now. So I'm de facto doing this for the first time, trying to figure out how to get the legs to level the base out, and I think I did a pretty good job. However, then I opened up the access staircases to the doors and realized it kind of looked a bit dumb because the staircases aren't, you know, reaching down to the ground. And Kerbals, you know, the gravity of Laythe is quite high. They can't use their RCS packs here, so they need to be able to walk onto the ladders, or the staircases, I should say, from ground level, which they kind of can't. In the end, I couldn't get the left-hand one. It's a left-hand on this particular perspective. I couldn't get that one to reach the ground. So in the end, I just folded it away and said, like, oh, you know, in the canon of this, I said, we'll put 2 entrance points, but in reality, we'll only ever use 1. We'll just see how things work out once we land. But here's a little tour of the base. We have the little dining room. Then we've got our hydroponics room. This is our little laboratory. And that's it. I realize now there's no bed, but I guess Kerbals don't sleep, right? They just sort of T-pose with time warp on. So it's all fine. Then we can go ahead and leave. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, Laythe has an oxygenated atmosphere, which means Kerbals can take their helmets off. Now we've got this awkward case of getting the helicopter off the roof. So we've got no probe control because I don't have connection to the comnet. So I just basically put the throttle up to maximum, and then I hoped that the tilt of the base would allow the helicopter to just sort of go off to the side, and I cut the throttle, and it worked okay. Lack of connection to the KSC is not going to be an issue for future flights because I've brought a pilot Kerbal with us, and pilot Kerbals don't need connection to the KSC to have full control over vehicles. But now is the time. This is actually the thing I was most excited about seeing, actually. I've seen these turbine parts in my parts list mocking me for quite some time, but I've never been able to use them because I've just not done a video where it would have been appropriate to use them, but now I can. And look, you can right-click them and see where the wind speed is, and you can see I've attached them, well, I attached them to those hydraulic pistons, so we can extend them up to be nice and high, but then I've got a rotational thing, I don't know what they're called, rotation pod mat, I have no idea what they're called, servo? No, whatever. So basically we can angle the turbines to always be facing the wind direction for maximal power output. And there we are, we've got 1 Kerbal on board the helicopter. I'm aware, by the way, the lighting is a bit weird, like the Kerbal's face is super bright and washed out. I will fix that in just a second, it's planet shine being a bit too aggressive. But, you know, like I said earlier, we've got space for 2 Kerbals on board, so let's get another Kerbal out on EVA. So we'll do kind of a more extended tour of the base this time, and this is kind of like the dining room. I guess there's like a bed in the middle, right? The table is the bed. They all just take turns using it, or maybe they just get extra snuggly. I then wanted to go to the observation deck up here, but I realized there's no internal ladder, and Laythe's gravity is too high for a Kerbal to jump up there. So can't go up there, unfortunately. I was trying to like jump and open the hatch and see if I get it to work, but alas, I could not. Here's another little view of the hydroponics garden, and then we can go out into the little laboratory. There's a little squeaky dinosaur, very important piece of lab equipment that, and get our second Kerbal on EVA. What's his name? Lenuki Kerbal. So yeah, and again, Lenuki's face was very washed out, so I quickly opened, well, I wanted to see if it was TUFX that was messing up with things, and it wasn't. So then I opened Planet Shine and thus discovered that it was Planet Shine. 'Twas the culprit here. So just messing around with the sliders here, trying to get things. You know, I like to make my game artificially brighter than kind of what your game probably is, because I'm recording my gameplay and sticking it onto YouTube. And YouTube's like video compression algorithm basically just makes videos much darker than they were when... So when I watch videos back to make sure, you know, they were of suitable quality, I'm not going to mention how low that bar is, but of suitable quality, I'm watching them in VLC, and they're very bright and washed out. And then when I see it on YouTube, I'm like, this looks perfect. So you might disagree and think that my videos look too bright and saturated, but whatever. I think they look kind of nice. And so what was I going with this? Yes, YouTube makes videos very dark. That's why I have my Planet Shine lighting levels set quite high. But in this case, I think it was a bit too high. Now we're going on our helicopter's maiden flight. If you don't count our surface base relocation as its maiden flight, or it's, you know, the little hop that we used to get it off the roof of the surface base and onto ground. But now I'm going to fly over to these beautiful icebergs that are part of Lynx's Parallax Continued mod, because I'm told these have collision. So like, as our first flight, let's go ahead and try and land on the icebergs. So I'm just running our science experiments, because of course this is not just an exploration helicopter, it is also a science helicopter. And yeah, now it is actually really difficult to fly helicopters in Kerbal Space Program. It's not like, you know, I don't know, GTA or any other game where you can fly a helicopter, because like when you change the throttle, it's not an instant reaction. Like I'll throttle down, but the helicopter will still kind of be accelerating. It's like basically imagine there's like a massive input lag. So it's really, really difficult to kind of ensure that we're touching down slow enough that we're not going to cause any damage. But here, I was confident, I had things ready. Let's go. So, as you can see, the iceberg did not, in fact, have collision. And this is my fault. They do have collision, but I'd forgotten that a few weeks ago I made a MUN SSTO that required me to disable the collision of the parallax stuff. So I quickly closed the game, opened up my parallax config files, re-enabled collision, and now we are ready to go for attempt number 2. Here we go, just approaching the surface of the icebergs here. Nice and gentle. Easy does it. Easy does it. Easy. Perfect landing. Not quite the landing I was hoping for. It's kind of a bit glitched, but it's a landing nonetheless. So then I tried, what if we try and fly this to a different part of the iceberg, maybe get a slightly more successful landing. But the landing, I'm afraid, guys, was it wasn't more successful. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's really, really hard to get kind of the throttle. It's really hard to land this thing, basically, because it's really hard to fly helicopters in Kerbal Space Program. At least the way I'm doing it. So I've basically set the RPM limit of the rotors. Well, I've bound that to the main throttle. So when I hold down shift, obviously the RPM limit increases, and holding down control is the opposite. I had a bit of a crash here, and I didn't explode because, as you probably saw, I had the cheat menu open. I just disabled crash damage, and I had unbreakable joint set up as well, so that we can have, fly this thing around without having to worry about the stress of potentially crashing after a really long flight. Is it cheating? Well, I mean, it's on the cheat menu, right? So I guess it's technically cheating, but I mean, single player game, right? And I'm being transparent with you guys, I'm telling you, and that's what I did. And I didn't cheat at all for any other part of this video. I know there's probably comments down below saying, oh, Matt, it's really funny that you used the vessel mover mod to pretend you're flying the base with a helicopter. And to that I say, I do not know to what you are referring to, because I didn't. That was legit. Okay. So there we are. So I didn't really know where to go with this thing. I had a scanning arm on board, which is kind of a breaking ground science part. So I wanted to try and find something that I could go ahead and scan with it. On Laythe, it has geysers, which are like little volcanoes that erupt water or some unknown vapor. Don't know what the vapor is or the liquid is, so we better go ahead and scan it, right? And I can see one there. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Yeah, so it's kind of funny watching this back in like hyper time lapse when this took ages in real life, because this thing, you can't use physics time warp with helicopters. There'll be a brief moment later on where I tried using physics time warp and the whole thing nearly completely ripped itself apart. Didn't make a mistake on landing, by the way. As you can see, we've landed successfully. No use of vessel mover required, and there's the geyser. So if I were to have hypothetically used vessel mover, it would have been sensible for me to maybe change the orientation of the helicopter in the air so that the scanning arm is on the correct side, facing the geyser. And then, we ended up in this hedge, and I decided, you know what, that's good enough for me. So sorry, guys, that you can't see anything that's happening, but rest assured that behind that hedge there is a bush. There is a scanning arm at work. And now we've scanned the geyser, I just quickly time-lapse to recharge our batteries. In case you didn't catch it or didn't notice, we have 2 RTGs on board that are keeping this thing's batteries topped up. Obviously, in flight, they can't recharge as fast as the motors drain the power, so that's why our electric charge is going down. But once we land and cut the power, just initiate a bit of time warp, and that electric charge gauge fills up nicely. I then decided to head into this cloud because, I couldn't really think of anything else to do at this part of the mission. And yeah, now with all of that done, I think around this sort of time, here we are on the map screen, just trying to locate the surface base so I can set it as my target, so I can find it and fly back to the surface base. And yeah, this was a fun old little build, as I mentioned. It's been a while since. I'm always a bit scared. I don't know if you caught it just then. The rotors all like left of the craft. That was me attempting to initiate physics time warp. But yeah, rotorcraft are kind of fun. Like, I'm always a little bit scared of building them because I never really quite know what I'm doing with them. But it was fun. Yeah, maybe one thing I keep meaning to do is maybe make some sort of Eve ascent vehicle that makes use of rotors. I think it was Jamie Logan Aerospace. Great channel, by the way. You need to go check that out. Another link in the description, I guess. I think it was him anyway. Did a really, really cool lightweight Eve mission where he used a helicopter rotor to get the rocket way up into Eve's highest, like really high in the Eve atmosphere, basically, before switching to rocket engines. Yeah, I've been thinking about doing something like that as well. But for now, that's the end of this video, I guess. Looking at things, we've done the thing right. We've got to Laythe. We've set up the base. We've been for a little fly on the helicopter. I haven't said thank you to my members or my Patreons yet, but their names are on the right hand side of the screen, and if your name is there, thank you so much for your support. Of course, thank you as well to Incogni. They've really helped support my channel over the years. They've been amazing. So thank you so much to Incogni for sponsoring me once again today. And that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.